You know what today is? It's Tuesday. And you know what Tuesday is? It's the second day of the week. Which has nothing to do with today's video, I just felt like starting the video that way. Today I'm going to be doing a video I've been wanting to do for a long time, and it's going to be controversial because there are not quite as many fanboys as there are for the AMD versus Intel, and it really shouldn't be a debate because, I mean, both companies make really good CPUs, but there are differences, and for those of you who clicked on this video are probably wondering what the differences are and which one is probably best suited for you. So fanboys, get out of the comments. This is no place for you. This video is just for educational purposes. So for years now, Intel has built up a reputation for being, well, what some would consider the king of CPUs and computing. For many years, they've provided some low-powered CPUs that offer really good performance, especially in the mobile lineup. And AMD has always been known for more budget-friendly builds. And where they picked up a bit of a bad reputation, the Intel fanboys like to slam them for being power-hungry monsters that overheated a lot. It may have been true in the past, but now it's a much different story. It's been many years now that Intel has held the market for hyper-threading. But when Ryzen came out, they changed all that, and now they are really good at it. I mean, Ryzen changed the game in so many ways that it really made Intel kick things into gear because now they actually had really good competition. So which one is right for you? Well, it's not to say that you can't do the same things with an Intel chip that you can not do with a Ryzen chip. I mean, you can accomplish both the same tasks, just some are better at certain types of tasks than others. For instance, Intel puts a lot of work into higher clock speeds out of their single core performance. That means for each core that they put into their processor, they tend to clock higher than that of Ryzen's. But Ryzen has put a lot of work into putting lots of cores into their processors. So typically speaking, they have higher core counts in each of their processors as opposed to Intel. Now that sounds kind of better, isn't it? I mean, to illustrate it, one core could be the example of a man, and a higher clock speed means that that man is faster or stronger than the other cores, or is measured in its strength or speed. Some tasks only need a couple of guys to do it. So a couple of really strong guys doing something faster than a task that doesn't take good use of the processor with lots of little guys on it means that it'll perform somewhat better. And that's a good example when it comes to games. Games today really only take 2 or maybe 4 cores in a processor. So having an 8-core CPU for most games, some of them take a lot more. Some games take a lot of processing power and just eat away at the cores. A lot of games only take 4 or 2 cores. And having higher speeds at those 2 or 4 cores is, well, really beneficial. But for things like Adobe Premiere and Blender and anything that takes advantage of multi-core rendering, that means that there's a really big task that can benefit from using lots of cores, then AMD's Ryzen chips tend to do better. Not to say that you can't get higher core count CPUs from Intel, they just cost a whole lot more than AMD is selling them for. And it's true, if you look at any of the benchmarks between CPUs that are very comparable between the two, it's like the data is flipped. Intel's single core performance is higher, and then AMD's multi-core performance is much higher. So it kind of depends what you need. That being said though, right out of the box, all Ryzen chips can be overclocked straight out of the box, whereas in Intel, you have to make sure that you get the K variant of the processor you chose. And an overclockable CPU, that means that you can get that higher clock speed right out of the box than what it was originally rated at. But keep in mind that if you are overclocking your CPU, you got to make sure that your cooling is sufficient and that your motherboard also supports it. Another thing to say about Intel is that they've been around for a long time, so they kind of have a lot of CPUs to choose from, which can be overwhelming and confusing for a first-time builder or buyer. So make sure if you choose the Intel side that you do your research, get the proper motherboard, and also keep an eye on the model year, because not all i7s are created equal. Ryzen has only been out for a couple years now, so there are far less chips to choose from. Typically the way it goes is Ryzen 3, 5, and 7, and then Threadripper, but Threadripper is a different topic. And in each of the models, they have the normal number and then the X number. The X version is the higher clocked version and is usually just a little bit more expensive. However, both can be overclocked and achieve higher performances. And as of the making of this video, there have only been 2 generations. So for an example, if you were looking into the Ryzen 7 CPUs, you would have the first generation would be the 1700 and the 1700X, and then even an 1800X. Whereas the second generation would be the 2700 and the 2700X. 7 being the type of chipset it is, and then the number at the beginning being the generation year. And it kind of works that way with Intel, but they have far more variants and they release chips far more often, so it gets a little confusing with that. So when it comes to simplicity, I would give AMD the award for not overcomplicating it. And when it comes down to it, just in general, I find AMD to be a little less confusing, a little more easy to work with for a first-time user. And generally speaking, I find that AMD currently has a little bit better value than Intel does. Since you can, pretty much with any of the Ryzen processors, you can overclock them and then get them to have the higher clock speeds that meet the competitor, provided you have the proper cooling. So with more cores and just an easier layout, I would suggest them. But that's not to say that Intel is bad. They are not. They are very good. Both are good. I love both of them. I just love Ryzen a little bit more right now. That's my personal opinion, because I do a lot of multi-core stuff, so that's what I need. So it depends what you need. If you're just a gamer that wants higher clock speeds right off the bat, Intel's a good choice. If you have a lot of workloads that you also want to put on your computer, then Ryzen's a good choice. Either way, both are good choices, and you should stop hating on each other. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked this video and you thought it was helpful, you know what to do, and I am going to be doing another video just like this when comparing NVIDIA versus AMD. So stay tuned for that. And until then, I'll see you later.